candidate Trump,
Right.
Vice President, former President Trump,
Former president.
go out on the trail and say, look, I'm going to round up illegal immigrants and deport them all back to their countries. And I'm like, wow, that's a huge operation. There's no way, that's going to get what, like 40%, maybe 45%? And then you have these polls showing that a strong majority, 60% of voters support rounding up illegal immigrants and deporting them. That blew my mind. And then it's even higher for other policies. So, you have Biden saying that, oh, I don't have the authority to shut down the border. I don't have the authority to turn illegal immigrants away at the border. Well, 60% of Americans support the President of the United States, support Biden using his existing powers to turn immigrants away from the border.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by commentary editor Conn Carroll. Conn, one of the arguments you hear against immigration enforcement is that it will be bad for the economy. We need these workers. We need cheaper labor. You've written a piece about how tight labor enforcement, immigration enforcement rather, has not really hurt the economy in a state that we're all looking at very closely.
Yes, absolutely. So back when he was still running for president, Florida got a lot more attention. Now that Trump is the nominee, a little less. But in 2022, Ron DeSantis passed an E-Verify bill. This is a bill that requires employers to check the Social Security status, basically confirm the identities of their new hires. And it comes along with criminal penalties for employers along with it.
Right.
This was then implemented in January 2023. So it's been in force for over a year now. And of course, you have all of these Democrats, leftist economists saying, oh, this is going to be terrible for the Florida economy. NPR published a story just this week saying, oh, it's a year in. This has been a disaster for Florida. And they point to this Florida think tank, this leftist Florida think tank, that said it's cost the Florida economy $12.6 billion. But what the article never says is the actual data from the state on what the economy is doing.
Right.
And it turns out the Florida economy is great. The Florida economy grew faster than the rest of the nation last year. It grew faster than neighboring Georgia, who does not have E-Verify.
Right.
It has the jobs market is doing great. It gained more jobs on a percentage basis than California and New York, both sanctuary state cities, and it has a lower unemployment rate than California, who actually has the highest unemployment rate in the nation, and New York, which again, both sanctuary cities, and Florida's economy is vastly outperforming them.
When you look at recent polling, there's actually broad public support for getting tough on immigration enforcement.
Yeah, I've actually been surprised, but just by the depth of it. When you have candidate Trump,
Right.
Vice President, former President Trump,
Former president.
go out on the trail and say, look, I'm going to round up illegal immigrants and deport them all back to their countries. And I'm like, wow, that's a huge operation. There's no way, that's going to get what, like 40%, maybe 45%? And then you have these polls showing that a strong majority, 60% of voters support rounding up illegal immigrants and deporting them. That blew my mind. And then it's even higher for other policies. So, you have Biden saying that, oh, I don't have the authority to shut down the border. I don't have the authority to turn illegal immigrants away at the border. Well, 60% of Americans support the President of the United States, support Biden using his existing powers to turn immigrants away from the border. So when you look at the common sense stuff, we're talking 68, 70% of voters support the conservative enforcement position, and virtually nobody's supporting the Democrats' open border position. I'm just amazed by these numbers.
So we're coming up on 2 years after Roe versus Wade was overturned, the Dobbs decision. Dobbs gets blamed for a lot of things that are going on in the country, but there's one thing that you've written about recently that is totally bogus to talk about Dobbs in
Yeah, I
relationship
think so.
to.
So this actually comes in the context of the Center for Disease Control last week published the latest data on fertility in the country. And it's found that the rate at which we're having babies is at the lowest ever in the United States recorded history. And you actually do see some progress in the sense that you have liberal columnists like Catherine Rampell at the Washington Post saying first of all, noticing, acknowledging that
Right.
fertility is bad. But second of all, saying this is bad. But then she goes on and she says, oh, this is all because of Dobbs and because abortion can be restricted now, that now women are afraid to have babies.
Right.
But when you look at the data, this is not true. Because one, fertility started falling way before Dobbs was overturned. But when you look at it even more granularly, it is those Democratic states that have the strictest or no, the most liberal abortion
Right.
preventatives that have
Permissive.
no restriction on abortions, that is where fertility is falling the most. And it is in fact in red conservative states that restrict abortion the most that fertility is actually the highest. So it's actually the exact opposite of what she says it is.
It certainly sounds like a stretch even at the conceptual level.
Right, look at the timeline, it's just not going to make sense.
Thank you, Conn.
Absolutely.
You could read Conn and the rest of our commentary team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.